सो नमस्ते दोस्तों, वापस एक बार हमारे साथ एक इंडस्ट्री के स्टारवर्ड है और सिंस 2019 एवरीबody हैज गेट बेनिफिटेड आउट ऑफ द call of the great fund manager Mr. Chandraprakash Padiyar sir, who is managing not only Tata small cap because sir is basically a guru for me small cap rather I would say, and he is actually managing the hybrid also to be precise, and large and mid cap also. So let's understand from sir first question with sir. कल ही निर्मला मैम ने इतना अच्छा बजट दिया है, तो वी वुड लाइक टू अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम यू दैट हाउ यू आर अनलॉकिंग द बजट एंड व्हाट इज योर व्यू ऑन द बजट.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for having me, sir, on your show, and it is my pleasure to interact with or kind of address your investors through this medium. And I look forward to doing it again and again. Actually, whenever
thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
It's a great thing to do actually. So coming to your question on the budget. मेरे हिसाब से सर I think what one good thing that this government has done, and I would give 100% credit to them, is that they have increased transparency on numbers in the budget.
Okay.
So for example, earlier, whenever we used to look at, before this government, whenever we used to look at the numbers from this budget, always we used to look at extra budgetary or outside the budget, what are the numbers, and when we used to add those numbers and try and see what is the net fiscal deficit after adding all the numbers which are outside. For example, FCI dues and railway amount or NHI borrowings and dues to exporters. All kinds of things used to be outside the budget.
क्रेडिबिलिटी की बात कर रहे हैं, मतलब क्रेडिबिलिटी इतनी नहीं होती थी.
Credibility is increasingly going up, and there is a lot of consistency from this government. जो बोल रहे हैं वो करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर उन्होंने बोला है कि 15-20% दो they have talked of higher numbers, but when I adjust in our mind capex for FY23 from the government side on infrastructure is likely to go up by something like 14.5% when you adjust for all those things. अगर वो बोल रहे हैं 14.5%, हमारे हिसाब से nowadays it is going to be higher than 14.5%. It is not going to be 14.5 only. So credibility. So for example, when I look at from a stock market perspective, अगर उस हिसाब से बात करूँ तो a good management is one which under promises and over delivers.
Oh, great.
And I would say that the government is something of this nature. They are trying to achieve that. Last couple of years, they've been delivering higher than what they've been promising. मुझे लगता है this time also they will do that. There is one or two things on the budget that I want to mention for our viewers here today. Is that one is this budget is focusing totally on development. It is focusing on higher infrastructure investment in the economy. And it is also focusing on improving ease of doing business, plus let's say from the PLI angle, production linked incentives जो पिछले एक साल से दे रहे हैं गवर्नमेंट, वो सारा एक्सपेंस इस साल आया है, अगले साल, अगले 3-4 साल तक आता रहेगा. So they are also incentivizing manufacturing in the economy. So ultimately it's a growth budget. It's a long-term focus of the government. It's not only a one-year budget, so to say. It's a vision that the government is implementing year after year. So which is why there is consistency in budget numbers. हमको फॉर एग्जाम्पल हमको डर था कि इलेक्शन आ रहे हैं स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के, तो थोड़ा बहुत पॉपुलिज्म आ सकता है, कहीं फ्री सब्सिडी स्टिमुलस कुछ आ सकता है, बट टू आवर पॉजिटिव सरप्राइज द गवर्नमेंट हैज बीन एक्सट्रीमली डिसिप्लिन्ड, and they are, in fact, they have given 1 lakh crore additional money to states to expend this year. So they are incentivizing states also to spend money from this year onward. So that's a great thing. So we are pretty optimistic after looking at the budget numbers.
So great. अब सर मैं एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन पे आता हूँ, एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड स्मॉल कैप. तो 2019 में हमने कॉल दिया था, एंड आई एम श्योर दैट 2019 से 3 साल का मैं एवरेज रिटर्न देख लो तो 40-45% का एवरेज रिटर्न इवन टाटा स्मॉल कैप ने भी दिया और बाकी एंटायर स्मॉल कैप स्पेस ने दिया है. सो व्हाट इज योर व्यू, आपका भी व्यू क्या रहेगा, कैसे आपको स्मॉल कैप लग रहा है और कब प्रॉफिट बुक करना चाहिए? एक आम आदमी ने या रिटेल इन्वेस्टर ने जिनमें 150%, 160% के ऑलरेडी रिटर्न भी आ चुके हैं जिनके पोर्टफोलियोज में, उन लोगों ने क्या करना चाहिए?
सो एक लाइन में सर अगर आंसर दूं तो माय आंसर वुड बी पिक्चर अभी बाकी है.
अच्छा,
बट लेट मी गिव यू इलैबोरेट ऑन दिस थिंग इज दैट मुझे सी फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू नोटिस व्हाट हैज बीन हैपनिंग इन द इकोनॉमी जियोपॉलिटिकली ग्लोबली, जो आज की तारीख में हो रहा है,
जी
there is this clear trend where one is Indian companies, Indian various sectors, chemicals हो, automobile हो,
जी
pharmaceutical हो, electronic manufacturing हो, consumer durable manufacturing हो, lots of segments or sectors. Today we are competitive in the world
जी
compared to a country like China.
जी
थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे plus minus 5-6%, which is why this production linked incentives is going to hugely help in becoming even more competitive.
जी
That's one part. Secondly, आपने वो term सुना होगा China plus one,
जी
which is that globally or OEMs and customers in the US, Europe, everywhere in the world, which were 100% or very largely reliant on China to source their imports, are thinking of diversifying their sourcing base. So, एक तो competitiveness होता है कि India has become competitive, but the other is that anyways customers were looking for alternative sources of. So उस कारण से, and plus government has rightly at the right time came up with these production-linked incentive plans for various sectors one by one. $25 billion plus is what they have allocated over the next 5 years for funding this plan, which means that manufacturing is going to pick up in a material manner, and we can see it happening. When we meet companies in the capital goods space today, all those companies are sitting on large order books, both exports and domestic. We meet various sectors, chemical, ho, pharma, ho, all those sectors that we meet with automobile. We find there is a lot of optimism in increasing capex going forward, and increasing in and optimism for growth on top line over the next 5 years. Which the reason I'm elaborating on this part of manufacturing is that if you remember 3 years back, I had said that small cap is all about manufacturing. Whether it is logistics or manufacturing, both put together. अगर आपको इंडिया में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी लिस्टेड स्पेस में चाहिए, कैप सेगमेंट, मिड कैप लार्ज कैप में भी है, बट लार्जली रेटेड इन द स्मॉल कैप सेगमेंट. And we believe that manufacturing, we are kind of getting into an inflection point today. We are just starting actually. So in fact अभी शुरू भी नहीं हुआ है in many ways. It is going to start from FY24 in a larger manner and then go on for the next 5 years. So I think we are in a sweet spot today, which and the big thing is that when manufacturing picks up and capex picks up, actually manufacturing when it picks up, lots of new jobs are created. Salary levels tend to go up. Standard of living tends to move higher. So we are anyways a consumption economy. 69-70% of our economy is consumption driven. So consumption also tends to move higher. And so which means that we are entering a phase where economy will grow at a stronger pace for a much longer period of time. Sustainability will be higher, which also means that logically profit growth for corporate India will be sustainably higher on a higher double-digit base. Credit growth, for example, our credit to GDP ratio is pretty low. CD ratio for banks, which is credit to deposit ratio, is pretty low. Banking sector NPAs are very well provided for. Capital adequacy is extremely high today. Our forex reserves, so macro, micro, any data that you look at, I think we are ready for the next upturn in the economy, which means that one should not be early in booking profits today. हो सकता है, so let me take another part of your question is that हो सकता है पिछले 3 साल में back to back we've seen very high returns. And last year was an extremely high return. In fact, Tata Small Cap Fund, as I remember, is as of yesterday was 1 year return is 72-73%. It looks it's a very high number. उतना repeat करना एक साल में it's obviously नहीं होगा. But can somebody expect a healthy double-digit performance from the market? I would say that given the earning profile, the possibility is yes. Yes, there are risks in the sense that globally interest rates are likely to move higher, liquidity tightness hoga, fiscal deficit since in the US especially has gone up materially, and now the government is not able to spend more, or the government is not able to pass new bills for that infrastructure stimulus that they wanted to do. So there is going to be tightness in the global economy for some time, and those would mean that थोड़ा volatility हो सकता है. Markets can correct, what times the correction नहीं हुआ है. तो थोड़ा बहुत छोटा मोटा करेक्शन हो सकता है, बट अदर देन दैट आई वुड नॉट बी इन अ हरी. आई वुड से दैट if you still continue to hold for 3-4 years, there is still a lot of money to be made, which is why I said that picture abhi baki hai. For time hai, too early to book profit.
सो ग्रेट सर, आपने अभी कहा कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में आप जो है वो बहुत सारा कुछ स्पेस देख रहे हैं जहां पे बहुत सारी कुछ एक्टिविटीज होनी बाकी है, फिर जस्ट अभी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट अभी चालू हो रहा है. तो इज दैट द फंड इज टेंड्स टू बिकम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग थीम, और यू वांटेड टू टेक द फंड टू द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग काइंड ऑफ थीमेटिक फंड, और इट विल बी द प्योर अगेन स्मॉल कैप प्ले, या व्हाट एग्जैक्टली जब आप स्मॉल कैप स्टॉक्स जब चूज करते हैं तो क्या आपकी एक थॉट प्रोसेस होती है? बिकॉज बहुत लोगों को क्या होता है, एक तो स्मॉल कैप से डर लगता है, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, बिकॉज बहुत वोलेटाइल होते हैं, राइट. एंड सेकंड, चूंकि उनको लगता है कि यार ये बहुत वोलेटाइल, तो अपने इस झंझट में पड़ना नहीं है, तो स्मॉल कैप नहीं प्ले करना है. एंड दैट इज हाउ एक्चुअली लॉट ऑफ पीपल हैव लूज द मनी. जो बन सकता था वो नहीं बना बहुत सारे पोर्टफोलियोज में, राइट. तो कैन यू प्लीज जस्ट आप दर्शकों को बताएंगे कि एग्जैक्टली आप कैसे इसको मतलब मैनेज करते हैं, और क्या आपकी थॉट प्रोसेस चलती है जब आप स्मॉल कैप में कोई स्टॉक लेते हैं?
So first, for those investors जो small cap सुन के डरते हैं, उनके लिए मैं बता दूं कि things have changed materially since 2018.
जी.
The reason I say this is that 2018 onwards, if you remember, SEBI and AMFI started defining what is a small cap, mid cap, large cap in the market. November 2018 में, by the way, Tata Small Cap Fund was launched. And at that time, I remember the 251st company in the market, in terms of market cap, started at something like 6,500 crore. Today, that same 251st company, not the same, but 251st company in the market cap starts at 16,000 crore. So small cap is not small cap anymore. The economy has grown, businesses have grown, profitability has grown.
Right.
तो ये वो छोटी कंपनीज नहीं रही जिसमें, for example, let me give you another way of looking at things. Tata Small Cap Fund, majority of the portfolio, and I would not be wrong by saying, let's say 85-90% of the portfolio, companies would not have any debt at all in the portfolio, in their balance sheet. मतलब cash flow is so strong that they are able to fund their growth on their own. Leverage ही नहीं है. In fact, जो 10% कंपनीज में लोन भी बचा है, वो भी बोल रहे हैं कि अगले 2 साल में लोन डेट फ्री हो जाएगा. इतना कैश है. Which tells you a very different story. जो आपको पुराने जमाने में जो होता था, naturally small cap used to be a very different animal. Right. 500 करोड़ 100 करोड़ वाले मार्केट कैप वाली कंपनीज में corporate governance standards were doubtful, and आप stock price 100% बढ़ता था तो गिर भी 90% जाता था. So you would lose everything.
Right.
But this time around, the nature of businesses have changed. So for example, again, one more data point for you. November 2018, when we had launched Tata Small Cap Fund, for example, just to highlight, हमारे fund में, and I'll come to details of what I do, I tend to buy companies between 1,000 crore and above.
Oh, great.
1,000 crore के नीचे वाली companies I avoid following. Between 1,000 and 6,500 crore in 2018, वो जो हमारा gap था, band था in terms of investing. At that time, I had a number of companies was something like 180-200 crore companies. So I had to choose 30 companies out of those 200 companies approximately. आज की तारीख में 1,000 crore और 16,000 crore के बीच में there are 700 companies to choose. So my bandwidth or my choice has grown disproportionately. I have to choose 30-40 companies out of those 7. So the choice, I am spoiled for choice actually. That's the positivity of this. Now coming to your question that you would ask, manufacturing and how do we build a portfolio? So just to first of all answer directly, I think today out of my total Tata Small Cap Fund portfolio, 40% plus of the portfolio is directly linked to manufacturing.
Wow.
So a fairly large part of portfolio is manufacturing focused. But why it is not 100%? There is a reason to it. My philosophy of investing is growth at reasonable price. I would want businesses where companies can grow profit at a very strong pace, 25% plus every year. Over my investable horizon.
Yes.
But valuation should also be reasonable.
Right.
So you need a combination of high growth, free cash generating with a strong balance sheet, and reasonable valuation, so that over a period of time, my investors make money from a combination of growth in profits and re-rating of valuation.
Right.
So वो that उसके लिए ना, so in many ways, market today has, to some extent, re-rated some of those manufacturing companies that we would like to invest. So valuation room for valuation re-rating कुछ हद तक शायद से नहीं रहा है. So you need to choose those companies today. So you need to be very specific on companies that you buy today, where there is still scope for re-rating. So for example, out of the 100% of portfolio that I have invested today, I still believe something like 50% of my portfolio has scope for re-rating of valuations. People tell me valuation ज़्यादा है market में, but मुझे लगता है a very large part of my portfolio, given the earning growth profile that we see, there is scope for re-rating of valuation. So we are, which is why I say that room hai abhi bhi to make decent returns. It will not be 70% as it was last year, but can it be healthy double digit? That is my objective. Don't hold. Obviously we cannot guide you any returns as per regulations. So these are my personal thoughts. There are lots of risks, so please do your due diligence. These are all disclaimers that I have to say. But my personal view is that we are okay. We are in a good shape as an economy. Logically, market should do well.
So great. Sir, एक last question. Sir, what are those sectors जो आप अभी देख रहे हैं कि ये इन sectors में आपको बहुत अच्छा पैसा अगले 3 साल में बनते हुए नजर आ रहा है?
So I can give you sectors for sure, and I will give you. But small cap segment, and since we are discussing small cap, in my other funds which I manage, you mentioned also Tata Large and Mid Cap and Tata Hybrid. Their sectoral is easier to give. Because we play in large cap, mid cap also, but in small caps, the focus is totally on bottom up stock pick and not sectors.
Nothing to do with sectors.
Nothing to do with sectors, because in small caps, not only do we look at businesses, but a lot of focus goes in who is managing those businesses. The promoters, the top management team, CEO, CFO, what is their vision, what has been their past track record, corporate governance standards kya hai. So we actually bet on the people who are managing the business along with the business, rather than looking at the sector. क्योंकि यहाँ अगर सही आदमी मिल गया जो manage कर रहा है, then half of your work is done. Then he will deliver in spite of sector not doing well. So which is why I would say that in small caps, our focus is more about the person who's managing. Having said this, from a sectoral perspective today in the market, I would say that given the economic outlook that we have, and given the manufacturing pickup outlook that we have, also the investment cycle pickup that we have, I would say that what used to work in period between 2003 and 2008, just go back and look at those sectors. It is banking and finance, capital goods, industrials, telecom, all those old economy sectors, cyclical sectors of the past cycle are the sectors where I think risk reward is favorable, and where earning growth is likely to be very strong. So with that now added sectors have got added. So new sectors have got added, which is electronic manufacturing and pharmaceuticals and chemical manufacturing. वो सब पहले नहीं थे 2004 से 8 में. वो अब यहाँ पे add हो गए हैं. So इस बार you have a more broader scope of sectors to pick from. But I would say cyclical sectors जो पिछले 10-12 साल में नहीं चले हैं, उनका टाइम शायद से अब आया है.
Including power.
Power is it's a very small sector. You have very limited number of companies to choose from.
Yes.
And power is seeing a shift from conventional power to alternative energy. All companies are trying to shift there, and technology is also changing. And manufacturing ecosystem is just getting built now in India. With the largest private company in India wanting to set up solar and hydrogen and all those manufacturing ecosystem in India. So I think it's just about, so there is a lot of ifs and buts also. It's not a given. So do your due diligence. I would say choose the right company. It's not a sector pick.
So great. सो इट्स अमेजिंग स्टफ विद यू। बहुत अच्छे से आपने लोगों को समझाया, बिकॉज स्मॉल कैप के बारे में बहुत क्यूरियोसिटी, बहुत लोगों को क्यूरियोसिटी है पैन इंडिया। आई एम श्योर दैट कि ये आपका मैसेज बहुत लोगों के लिए काम में आएगा, एंड प्रिसाइजली people will certainly going to look into the Tata small cap much stronger way with this message, I'm sure. Thank you very much sir for having you on our show of Meet Your Fund Manager। और वापस एक बार फिर से मिलेंगे आपके साथ ऐसे किसी इन्फ्लेक्शन पॉइंट पे जहां पे हमको लगेगा कि अभी यहाँ से स्मॉल कैप का क्या होने वाला है।
Pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks a lot sir।